Good evening. This is a public meeting of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for June 25th, 2012. Tonight, we have three matters before us, and I would like to remind everyone, if you plan on speaking either in favor or in opposition to a petition, that you please sign in at the podium before addressing this board. I'm going to take the order of business slightly out of business. I'm going to start with, this is under new business with ZB 2012-26. The petition is a special permit under signs. The applicant is KC Signs, Robin Casey. The property is located at 211 Plain Street. And the petition is to install eternally illuminated LED channel letter signage for Dots Fashion pursuant to Section 6.3 of the zoning ordinance. Is the representative here? Yes, good evening. Good.
Signs in Londonderry, New Hampshire. I'm here on behalf of MC Signs and Dots Fashion and request for a special permit to be allowed an internally illuminated LED channel letter wall sign, which is approximately 77 square feet at the Meadowbrook Shopping Center on 211 Plain Street. The sign faces will be a white acrylic with a pink vinyl overlay. The trim cap will also be white, and the returns will be a 5-inch deep .040 aluminum painted black. I know that the board had concerns that the returns on the retainers will be black, so I have brought a revised drawing with that stated by MC Signs, the manufacturer of the sign. The sign's illumination are white LEDs, which are more energy efficient and cost about 80% less to operate than fluorescent lighting. They are also more environmentally safer than your fluorescent bulbs. I also understand that this property has been going under significant redevelopment, and I believe allowing Dots to have a special permit for this low voltage channel letter sign would significantly advertise this business at this location.
If I could just ask you to, can you just move the microphone slightly in front of you?
Oh, sorry.
No.
Oh, this
You
one.
can move the microphone towards you.
Oh,
Yeah, that's it. Did you mention that you had a new set of plans, or?
I have a revised drawing as, that states that the returns on the sign will be black.
Okay. Just point of clarification, have you guys received the updated?
The applicant could submit it now for the record. That would probably be the best way to go about it.
Okay. Okay, anything else you'd like to add?
No, that is it.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to the public at this point. Is anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone would like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to speak if there's anyone that represents the ownership of the development here present. No, okay. Well, I like the sign a lot. And I just want to say that it's a good example of good graphics where it's got a black background in the channel letters and the use of LED lighting. And I think that if we can, for the rest of the development, we can use this as a model to replicate, because I really think going forward as we develop more signage for the upcoming stores that are going to be looking probably for new signage, that we look to this model as a standard graphically for the upcoming signage. It's an improvement, I think, over what we had, Chuck E. Cheese, I think we had a couple of weeks ago. And I think that this is a big improvement graphically, and so I think it's a good example. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
I have no further comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, one quick question. What are your hours of illumination?
Excuse me?
Your hours of illumination?
I am not aware of what that is. That I'm just basically the sign installer, not the business itself.
Okay, no further questions, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Corey?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's a good fit. I really do. I agree with Dennis's comments, and I don't have a problem with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. Fan?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So regarding the question for the illumination, obviously, if the tenant was here, we could ask him that question.
I apologize, but
Yeah. So I think we'll probably need a condition. Aaron, as far as conditioning it, how do we want to handle this since the tenant isn't here? In other words, I guess my question is, do we need the tenant back here to understand what the hours of illumination are or when they'll be shut off? I don't know if there's any, I don't remember, to your point about Chuck E. Cheese or the rest of the, I wonder if that whole plaza all goes off at the same time. I'm not absolutely
I would
sure.
imagine that they close at different hours. You have different types of businesses, so there's not really one uniform closing time that you could base a condition on. I think in this case, if you want a specific time that you have a condition related to the hours of illumination, you'd probably want to continue the project or condition the approval that they come back to establish that.
Anybody, any board members have
Yeah,
comment on that?
Mr. Chairman, I think with the nature of the business that are in there, I think 10 p.m. would be sufficient. There's no need for them to go to exceed that, so that would be my guess on the situation.
Any other comments? No? Okay, so we'll, as a condition, hours illumination not to exceed 10 p.m. Okay, any other conditions? Hearing none, I'd like to have a motion.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion on ZBA 2012-26 at 211 Plain Street for internally illuminated LED sign at Dots Fashion, with a condition the sign not be illuminated after 10 p.m.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Belanger,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Bailey,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Ahern,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy.
Approved with conditions?
Hey, ma'am, you've been approved with conditions. Joe or Aaron, any documents to sign?
Yeah, they're revised.
excuse me? Oh, okay. You want all of them, or you just want this? Oops. I have like 6 of them. You can sign this one. See anything without my glasses? Thanks.
You all set?
Was that, thank
Okay,
you.
good luck.
Thanks.
Okay, our next matter before us is under continued business. This is ZB 2012-24. Petition is a special permit for signs. The applicant is Dennis Scannell. The property is located at 41 Tanner Street. The petition is to install an internally illuminated billboard, 14 by 48, totaling 139 feet, within 50 feet of a wetland or water body. The property is in the light industrial district pursuant to section 5.2.3 and section 6.3.4 of the zoning ordinance. Representative, yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Douglas Hausler, and I'm an attorney licensed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with offices in Chelmsford. Our firm is representing the applicants, Dennis and George Scannell, who are with me this evening. We're hopeful that tonight's going to lead to the culmination of a 7-year journey that started in 2005, right in these chambers with the vote of the City Council approving a small abutting parcel which it selected as an appropriate site for a billboard to be erected, and pursuant to which our clients would acquire the property and build the billboard. That was in 2005. The Zoning Board of Appeals approved it unanimously back in 2005, as did the City Council. But unfortunately, one abutter decided to pursue legal remedies, and it delayed further action for a period of 6 years. We were finally able to resolve it by coming to an agreement, and I've tried to outline this in a submission to you, and I don't wish to be redundant because it sounds like a very busy evening. But the short and sweet of it is that if you allow this application for a special permit to issue, it also successfully concludes 3 lawsuits that were pending in the Middlesex Superior Court with respect to the land owned by the city. The concept remains essentially the same. My clients will acquire a very small parcel of land from the city of Lowell. It will, in fact, buy that property, transfer it to the abutting property owner, which gets rid of the lawsuits. My clients have since acquired 41 Tanner Street, which I will call the locus, which is the focus of your decision tonight. On the locus, they are seeking to erect this billboard. One of the questions that we were asked to address were the 6 criteria. This couldn't be a more appropriate place for a billboard if ever it exists in Lowell. We already have there's no traffic flow issues. Tanner Street allows for easy access to the proposed billboard. The utilities are in place that, to the extent any electrical requirements are there, already utilities are there. There's adequacy of utilities and other public services. Traffic flow is not an issue, and safety is not an issue. The potential fiscal impact is only but positive because it's adding a structure of current value, which is going to increase taxes, personal property taxes, and real estate taxes. So we're making the property more valuable in an area that's been designated by the city as an earmark for redevelopment. So we've met at least 3 of those 6 criteria right away. There's no impact on the natural environment. In fact, by allowing this particular billboard application to be built on this locus, you're going to be spurring economic redevelopment of several parcels in the Tanner Street area, this being the first. This will create the revenue needed to raise existing buildings on 41 Tanner Street. It will then also allow for private development monies without seed money from your government to redevelop Tanner Street and the Gateway. And this has been the topic of several discussions, including the Tanner Street Economic Development Committee. So this is all consistent with other government-sponsored programs. The next issue that I think needs to be more clearly addressed are some of the comments that were made in a letter submitted by the Planning Department, and I don't wish to challenge them on point-by-point basis, but I think some of their statements are more opinion than fact, and I'd like to point out several facts for your consideration. Well, one of the issues is that they assert that the master plan seeks to enhance gateways to the city and that having this billboard on the connector would not do so. That's not a factual statement, that's just an opinion, that's in their letter. The facts are that a billboard will promote local goods, services. All Lowell banks have already indicated their desire to rent space on a billboard if it's allowed, the merchants, and we could also advertise community events. So it actually does enhance the character of the city. It creates a revenue stream to allow for the owners to redevelop their land in which the billboard will be located, raise an existing building, eliminate a current junkyard or used car location, and start the redevelopment of Tanner Street. And I might add that the people most affected for whom the planning department was making these opinions known are actually my clients, because they own approximately 12 acres of land in Tanner Street. If anybody's affected by a billboard, it would be my clients, and they see this as being the start of an entire new change to the Tanner Street area. I also note that, and I believe I'll be made correct on this, is there won't be, I believe, any opposition, because we've received no opposition from any abutters or phone calls or any comments of any nature whatsoever. So if there were people who really were opposed to this or they had contrary ideas, they certainly haven't tried to allow my clients or me to know about them in advance. So I would suggest respectfully that the opinions that it's a detriment to the city is not well conceived. The second issue that they've asserted was that lead billboards, quote, have been shown to have a negative impact on traffic safety due to the distraction it poses for the motorists. Again, that has never been detailed. There's no citation to something in support of that. It's just an opinion. I suggest in contrast that the State Outdoor Advertising Board, which oversees exactly that kind of an issue, has already done test sites on Route 93 for electronic billboards, and we expect those regulations to be issuing literally within weeks. And that's the reason why we went for the electronic billboard device. We expect it to be the most current, up-to-date standard of billboards that we can do. So we don't want to come back before your board looking to amend a petition. We would like to put up a billboard regardless, but we would like to get the electronic version approved and apply for such before the Outdoor Advertising Board initially. Another issue that they've asserted is, and by the way, the test boards are located on Route 93. There are 3 or 4 test models currently being done. Another opinion that we need to make sure we're clear about, they believe that this would be approval would be premature to put a billboard in a central location on Tanner Street districts because the planning process is underway. I might add that that's not actually correct. In fact, I have with me a report from 10 years ago, sponsored by the city, which specifically designated Tanner Street for economic redevelopment and specifically said this location was perfect for a billboard. So I think we've had a change of administrations and perhaps a change of opinion, but I would say to you that that's not fact. And when my clients undertook their efforts to acquire this property, they were relying on the city's proposals then existing. The fact is my clients are members of the Tanner Street Redevelopment Committee. They have substantial vested rights to see the area change, and they perceive this as an opportunity to jumpstart redevelopment and eliminate the junkyard approach that's existed on Tanner Street for decades. There are some things that are ignored in the letter that was submitted by the planning board or planning department, and we ask that you factor these into your decisions. Fact is that there have been 2 city council votes unanimously supporting the billboard. And we believe that that is a very good representation of public opinion about this topic. We also add, your own predecessors on the Zoning Board of Appeals approved this unanimously 7 years ago, and not much has changed in terms of what's being submitted to you. We hope you don't ignore the fact that there's going to be no opposition to this. We hope that you don't ignore the fact that there's new technology has transformed what used to be perceived as blights in the neighborhood of billboards. These electronic devices, billboards, are going to be state-of-the-art, allow for Amber Alerts, allow for community announcements with respect to community functions such as Winterfest, Spinner Games, etc. Most important of all, I ask that you be reminded that this is going to settle 3 lawsuits in which the city was a party, as well as my clients, and that you don't ignore the substantial investments my clients have made in reliance upon prior votes of various governmental entities, including your own board. And we are more than willing to address any questions that your board may have or its members. Thank you for allowing us to present this.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. I think at this point I'm going to open it up to the public.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Does anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Dennis.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions, if I could. You mentioned the billboard would jumpstart the redevelopment, I think, of the Tanner Street area. Could you just elaborate on how a billboard would do that?
It creates the revenue stream. As you are likely aware, the advertising from the board brings in a significant amount of revenue. That will allow my clients to have the revenue stream necessary to take down the existing building on 41 Tanner Street. They've already had several companies make inquiries about building something new once this property has been completed as to the billboard, so they know where they can site their building, which is going to allow them to have the money necessary to do all the plans, to do all the engineering, and to do the architecturals for redevelopment of that site. And from there, that will also allow my clients to have the financial wherewithal, without any governmental assistance, to work on the other 12.5 acres they own directly across the street. So it is a substantial positive for Tanner Street.
I understand there's a positive revenue coming in from a billboard. It seems like the amount of funds required to demo a building of that age would be significant, and to redevelop the site and to make it appealing for development. So the revenue from a billboard alone is enough to pull that off within a short period of time?
Because it will be part of an overall construction budget that would include the raising of the building, the redevelopment plans, the engineering plans. We've already gotten approvals from the Conservation Commission, so we know the areas geographically are what our limitations are, but now allows us to go forward with that and get bank financing to support that with a steady income stream.
I understand now. Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
The master plan that you mentioned, I was at one of the steering committees for the Tanner Street development, and there was a lot of discussion about connecting residences through that area and how to do that, because you certainly have people going to the train, for instance, from South Lowell or from Tanner Street area that, so the whole idea of redeveloping Tanner Street, and how does the billboard then fit in with more of a pedestrian-friendly kind of environment, or is there a connection at all?
I don't think there's a connection as to this side of the Tanner Street area that it has any effect on residential structures of any kind whatsoever. And most importantly, I don't think it has any negative impact on any residences that are across Route 3, or excuse me, the connector, where that's the closest residences to this proposed billboard. Everything else is commercial or industrial nature surrounding the billboard or the highway. So I don't believe you're going to have any residential impact.
You're relatively high at, I think, 139 feet to the top of the billboard.
But if you look at the existing tree lines and the height of the trees, it's not beyond anything where the height is not going to impact residential people on the other side of the connector. It's more than 6 or 7 car lengths width, plus the residences on what I would call the westerly side of the connector are depressed, or meaning lower in topography. So hence, when they're looking out of their homes, they see their own tree lines first. They would never even see this.
Okay, and then the graphics that you're displaying, the LED type graphics, I think of Times Square, which is very appealing, or the GBH billboard down there on the turnpike going into Boston.
Right.
Is it color that you're anticipating, or is it just black and white, or?
I believe they are. I don't know the details of what will be approved. My understanding is they were exploring color as well as black and white. My understanding is it would be colored as of today. No final regulations have issued on the electronic version of the LEDs, so therefore, I'm hesitant to commit one way or the other. I just don't want to have to come back before the board on a repetitive petition, essentially just seeking it to become electronic when, if it's static, meaning a regular board, I don't think there's a major change there.
I just have one last question, if I could. The reason you're here is because you're moving it roughly 20 feet or something?
Approximately 20 or 30 feet from the prior approved location, but within the same setback distance, if not even a greater setback distance from the connector.
And that's based on the 6 years or 7 years of litigation?
Yes,
kind of pulled this into
it's a
the,
result of, if I may, the parcel that would be what we consider north. It was the city-owned parcel, which is an irregularly shaped parcel. It looks like a half of a figure 8. It comes to a pinch point. The original billboard location was on the northerly side of that particular piece of land that the city owned. The abutter, adjoining property owner, objected to that on a variety of bases, none of which ultimately proved out, but nonetheless, it didn't mind us 6 years of litigation. And we'd like to get rid of it by we buy the property, we deed it over, and then we've since acquired 41 Tanner Street, makes it actually a better location and further removed from the connector itself.
the owner of the billboard is going to be a trust, or is it going to be run by,
It'll be run by an entity controlled by the Scannell brothers who are with me tonight.
and there's a connection with the Chamber
Property
of
owner.
Commerce in Lowell or something? Or is it, how is it, because are you going to be advertising things like that don't really have to do with downtown Lowell or businesses that aren't really in? I mean,
We haven't made any arrangements yet, but we've had merchants, banks, other businesses contacting my clients already, hearing about it, that are anxious to participate and are even more anxious to participate with advertising rights if they're successful before your board.
I have no further questions. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I agree. I think the location, if there's going to be a billboard in Lowell, I think this is probably the most appropriate location within the city. So a lot of cars travel up and down the connector, obviously, every day. It's a thoroughfare coming into the city. So I guess I'm of no opinion that we should be second-guessing past city councils or zoning boards. So I'm in full support of it. I guess my only question would be the LED lighting. My only concern, I guess, would be is gaudy popping lights, things like that, which I wouldn't be a fan of. I guess that would be my only long-term concern versus scrolling in and out gently advertising, I think would be fine.
Very well. We would look to comply with whatever state regulations are made applicable to electronic boards like that. And we don't think the government regulations that will be issued by the state will allow for that kind of an issue to happen.
Okay, those are my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I do think it's a good project, and I think it's an ideal spot for this type of illuminated billboard. I do see in the criteria approved, not approved, but a review in a previous memorandum, as it relates to the Amber Alerts. As it relates to that, how's that going to be controlled? Is that going to be all electronic from
Only if it's
site
electronic.
predetermined site?
If we are allowed to have the electronic version by both this board and the state, then we would coordinate with the city police department to allow them to have access immediately to allow that to occur. My understanding is that there are some of these other boards that have some type of memorandums with the state police and other departments, and we would mimic exactly what's in there.
That was my next concern. I think it's a great benefit for public safety, not only for the city of Lowell, but the Lowell connector is a very well-traveled passway to Chelmsford, Lowell downtown, and the like, and as well as Barica. And I think the state police should be contacted as well and be involved in that 911 enhanced system. And I think that's a great upgrade that's being brought to the city. That was my secondary question. I know that the Lowell Police does a fabulous job working hand in hand, and we do have some of those Amber Alerts proposed with other signage, and I was just making sure the state police are going to be well involved because of the access there, and I think it's well overdue.
Thank you. We would coordinate everything through the city's department and allow them to make the required contacts with any other enforcement agencies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you, Gary. Corey?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. For starters, I was on the board in 2005, and this project at that time had overwhelming support. And I see here tonight there's no opposition as well, so that's always a good sign. But for starters, I'd like to make a statement about the Scannell family, who have operated a business on 10th Street for 100-some-odd years, I think more. And they've always been great partners and supporters of the city of Lowell. So I would like that to go on the record. But I do have a few questions that, what are the frequency of the ads going to be at this time? Do you know?
We don't know, only because we don't know if it's going to be the electronic or static version. If it's a static version, until the state approves the regulations, it will be consistent with whatever exists, for example, in the Alpine Butcher location. We'd follow a similar pattern. We're not looking to create any new ground.
Okay, yeah, because I'm sure this board would like to know the frequency of the ads. I think overall everybody seems to be in support of it, but that's one thing I'd like to know too when you hear back from the state. I think this board would like to chime in on that.
My understanding is that the state has been testing it on an 8-second rolling approach. That's how they've been doing it on the 4 that exist on Route 93 or on the Mass Pike.
Okay, yes, those would be good examples for sure. But I think it's a great project. I think the benefits go far beyond Tanner Street with the public safety and the Amber Alerts and the advertisement of city events, as your clients have agreed to do with, the Folk Festival and Winterfest. I'm very involved in all most of the city events, and we need your help, especially on this gateway coming in and out of the city. I couldn't think of a better location. So we appreciate your support, and I do support the project wholeheartedly, and I wish you the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Belanger.
Thank you, Corey. Van?
Mr. Chairman, the only comment that I have is this is going to be a great thing for the neighborhood, for the area, and overall for the city. So this is a great project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So I guess I'll ask just a couple of questions, if I could.
You're the chair, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm Mr. Big. Regarding getting and since we've gone through Mile Street before, we've had a little bit of experience with the billboards. You've mentioned about working with the state and getting state approval. So prior to state approval, do you plan on advertising just like they're doing on Chelmsford Street right now? In other words, a regular billboard presentation?
Yes, we would. We would have to still get approval from the state before that can occur.
Correct. Okay. Do you have any idea how long that's going to take you?
No, we do not, sir.
Okay. Well, one of the things I had a list of things here, but one of the positives I saw was the advertising for local businesses. Obviously, I think that's a huge benefit both to the businesses and to the city. The tax revenue, those types of data points, I'm not even going to get into those. One thing I did ask of the city was to give me some comparatives in the neighborhood of height, the smokestack that's up there already, down at Plain Street, the Target sign, and a few other structures, just to get some relationship to the size of this structure. I don't see this structure being out of scope and comparative with others in the neighborhood. Traffic studies, I think we've been through this before. I haven't really seen anything around the traffic studies that either support or are in opposition to the. But again, thinking about the signage, and I know this is usually left up to the state, but I wouldn't, what I'd like to see maybe is even something around speeding, obeying the speed law. Now, I know that's not really advertising, but I know that particular roadway is subject to, and I'm sure if the Lowell police were here, they would tell you that obviously that's a revenue generator for the city. But I think drunk driving and driving, I think there's some positives again with that billboard because of its gateway into the city. So even though it's not pure advertising from a dollar perspective or something around Folk Festival or something like that, but I just think there's some benefits for that could be timed correctly.
That's a great idea, Mr. Chairman. We'll be happy to incorporate that into
Sure.
the discussions.
I think one of the board members asked about who is going to operate the actual billboard once it's up. Are you going to use like I'll call it a management company, or how are you going to structure who's going to control the advertising?
Right now, my clients intend to control it. We think that's the best for the city of Lowell and the best for them.
Okay. I didn't see anything, especially in your write-up, that addressed that. Who was going to do the management of?
I
wanted to ask the question.
I think the overall control will always be maintained by my client. They may hire some folks to assist,
Yep.
but final say will rest with my clients.
Okay. So I guess the next section I'll move into is, I had a list of certain conditions here, and we can talk about those to see if either you agree or disagree.
Yes, sir.
Again, in the write-ups, there was a mention about junk items in the particular area. Is the plan to still remove?
Yes, it would be to remove the junk items surrounding the area where the billboard will go and eventually continue what I call outward towards Tanner Street.
Okay. Second one would be fencing in of the actual area. Is that the plan where the structure will be put in?
I would have to check with the fire department if they actually want it fenced in. My sense is they don't normally want that to happen. They prefer that it be on a pad that they have clear access to.
Okay. So if I can defer for a second, the billboard on Chelmsford Street, did we have them fence in that area? Do you recall?
I don't recall if we had,
Yep.
when we had a project review meeting, the fire department didn't indicate any concerns relative to a fence, but we can certainly work with the fire department going forward about
Okay.
fencing.
No, that's fine. 'Cause we didn't receive any departmental comments on this petition, right? Okay.
I'd just like to chime, Mr. Chairman, I think at this time, that location on Chum Street has no fencing underneath that I can recall.
All right. Color of the structure, I'm not sure if somebody asked about color. How's that going to be determined?
The color would be the best that would blend into the neighborhood.
Okay.
I
So
apologize.
that's fine, because it might lead into one of my other conditions here. And next condition will be the sign faces will be LED. Want to ensure it's LED. Nothing else has changed. And then to Mr. Scannell's point, the next one I had was, I'd like to request a final sign design with revised renderings,
We would be happy to do that.
once those are available, which will probably lead into the color
That's fine.
at that time. And then the last thing I have there is, once it's up and functional, I'd like to have a 90-day review, just to make sure things are operating the way this board had asked and requested.
We have no problem with that, Mr. Chairman.
Any other conditions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, obviously they need state approval, but when they return, what about frequency of ads and stuff like that? Will you let DPD determine that, or?
Well, I honestly believe at this point, I would leave it to the petitioner to regulate how they're going to do this. I mean, I think there's a big difference between a sign in a store front and a billboard sign as far as and I know we should have already covered, the flashing and the color schemes, all those other things, so but I think that could blend itself into the 90-day review once the LED is put in. I know that's going to take some time. Obviously, Chelmsford Street still doesn't have LED.
That's right. It's because the state regulations haven't really issued yet. They're being developed. But to the point raised by the vice chair, our goal would be to be consistent with whatever the Mass Outdoor Board, Advertising Board suggests as an appropriate time mechanism, because they will have studied to see if there's any impact on safety.
Yep.
So we'll follow that.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none, I'd like to have a motion.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve ZBA 2012-24 at 41 Tanner Street for an illuminated billboard with the following conditions. Remove all junk within the area. Second, color of a structure be environmentally suitable. Third, sign faces will utilize LED lighting. Fourth, be to review final sign design with revised renderings. And fifth, 90-day review within this board.
I'll second the motion.
Have a roll call?
Can I just clarify a couple of those conditions? There is one of them that requires a revised rendering of the sign. Is that now, or is that prior to the LED signage going up? Just want to clarify when that needs to come back to the zoning board.
So regarding that, so if there's obviously a waiting period with the state, correct? And this is why.
Yeah, it's right. It sounds like there's going to be two stages from the discussion tonight. There's the original, the billboard that's non-LED, that doesn't have any changing signage, at least via illumination. It sounded like, but I just want to confirm that the condition is requiring a revised rendering of the signage once the LED is available and will be actually constructed. Is that correct?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
because
there,
I just
okay.
want to make it known that we're not asking for two different revisions. I believe we're asking for one.
Right, exactly.
To get the
That's
final.
what I would, because we have a rendering now that isn't changing based on the
Correct.
proposal. Okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bailey?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved with conditions?
Okay, Attorney Housley, you've been approved with conditions. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You got anything you want to have them sign there?
Oh, thank you. Where is that? Anywhere? Dated today is 6/25. And then anything else?
Nope, that's perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one. I'll talk to you.
Okay, our next order of business is under new business. This is ZB 2012-25. Petition is a special permit. The applicant is 24 Merrimack Street, LLC, property located at 26 Merrimack Street. And the petition is to convert the top 5 floors of the building into 47 residential units pursuant to Article 12, Table of Uses. Yes, sir.
Chairman, members of the board, for the record, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, Lowell, representing 24 Merrimack Street LLC. With me tonight is Tom Monahan, who's the manager. Tom is a resident of Nashua. He's been in the construction and development business for over 40 years, mostly in southern New Hampshire. Most recently, however, just completed the Outlet Mall in Merrimack, which was his project. So he's done some pretty big projects. This is his first project in Lowell. We're before you tonight requesting a special permit under Article 12 to convert the top 5 floors of the old Shalafo building at 26 Merrimack Street into 47 residential units. The present commercial tenants are to remain. And to be truthful, there's been no demand for commercial tenants on the other floors. The units will run between 750 square feet to 900 square feet. It'll be a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units. All will be market rate rentals, and we are anticipating the rent will run between $1,400 to $1,800 per month. It's Tom's intention to preserve the present historical significance of the building. His representatives have met with representatives of the Historic Board, and they've discussed facade repairing and refurbishing and it's their intention to try to do the front very similar to the Bon Marché building, also on Merrimack Street. The development is very similar to the Boot Mills West development that this board just recently approved. Since there's no change to the facade of the building, with the exception of refurbishing it, the building does conform to the neighborhood. It's not going to change. The proposed development conforms with the master plan, and it leads to a vibrant and diverse downtown. As I previously stated, all units will be market rate, and this will create a strong base for customer support for downtown businesses. In addition, the more people might bring in more businesses to the downtown. So I think it's a win-win for the city. We've reviewed the staff comments, and I'd just like to address them briefly if I could. As far as planting of trees along Merrimack Street, the problem we have is this is an old building, and like a lot of the old buildings downtown, there are vaults underneath the sidewalk. Mr. Monahan has told me, though, he'd be willing to work with the DPD staff to provide planters on the sidewalk if that's the wish of the board. But to dig up the sidewalk could be a real problem. And once again, it's also a very busy location, so I think DPD staff should be involved as to the placement of these planters, because the Dunkin' Donuts, there's a lot of foot traffic in the area. As far as the work on the facade of the building, there's no problem working with the transportation engineer to come up with appropriate staging like they have in the area to make sure there'll be nothing falling on the pedestrians on the street. As far as dumpsters is concerned, we have rights in the alleyway that comes in off Prescott Street. It'd be our intention to put the dumpster there, and there's access from the building to that dumpster, and we're proposing to remove have it changed every 2 days. All utilities are at the site. He is making one change, changing from oil heat to gas heat on the site. But I think, as I stated in my application, I think this proposal conforms to the master plan. It will bring more people to the downtown, hopefully bring more customers to the businesses. It will increase the tax base. It'll bring a building that's been vacant for many years back to life. And I don't know of any environmental issues. Like I said, all of the utilities are at site. There'll be no earth-moving operations to complete the project. We have made arrangements with the City of Lowell Parking Department to have sufficient parking spaces in the city garage. So I think it's a win-win situation for the city. Tom's here to answer any questions, and I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Hearing none, I'll open it up to the public at this point. Mr. Flood? Anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this project? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Chairman Bailey, thank you for the opportunity. Members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, my name is Stephen Green. I reside at 181 Market Street, Unit 21. I want to clarify for the record that the notice for this hearing included John DeAngelis as the developer. And I want to make sure that in fact, there is absolutely no association of John DeAngelis with the development of this particular project, because the project, I think, is too important for the city to have a developer with the problems that John DeAngelis has created. And I don't know whether I need to go on and to address the original concerns based on the notice that the neighbors received.
So why don't you just proceed with whatever you want to say,
Okay.
and once all the opposition's done, Mr. Flood, then I'll let you rebut that, Mr. Flood, okay? Thank you.
Residing in a downtown developed building that was done approximately a decade ago, I can tell you that this is an important project for the city, and that the developer who does it is critical to doing it well. There have been a number of improvements made in the city on how these projects have been managed, but we haven't seen that kind of improvement on the part of Mr. DeAngelis, and I'll cite you why there's so many concerns about it. With 47 units, you're going to have a density twice as dense as, for example, that we currently have in the same footprint at Market Gallery condominiums. This is 181 Market Street. We experienced, because of the developer, severe problems with the roof, with pointing, with windows. There are code issues with meeting the energy efficiency just for the existing code at the time. Things that were not properly addressed and were not addressed, and even after a judgment was made against Mr. DeAngelis, that we ended up, we still have, waiting for any compensation from, that was based on this court decision. Dealt with the fact that he just recently had tax liens that we were aware of because we're trying to protect our interest in the property that he owns in the building. We also are, as a trustee in the Market Gallery condominium, we are dealing with the financial obligations that he has not paid his condo fees for that he owes the association. So if there's any association with Mr. DeAngelis, and even as some sort of a background association with this project, firm opposition to it, because this project is too important. The development problems that have been, the credibility of the real estate market that have been created by Mr. DeAngelis are too much of a problem, too severe to allow it to happen again. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Yes, sir.
I think we are all here with, excuse me, thank you for letting us come and express our opinions. My name is Eric Faulkner. I also live at 181 Market Street. And I think we're all here more or less in opposition of John DeAngelis. So it may actually be moot, and it may make sense to let Mr. Flood speak.
Okay. No, I'm going to keep it open to people in
Okay,
opposition.
I'm sorry. So that's just about it. I agree that it's an important project. I believe it's your mandate to manage the city to the advantage of the city. And I think that John DeAngelis' reputation would be a detriment to this project.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Pamela Howland. I live at 181 Market Street. When we moved into our unit, we expected a high-quality unit, especially based on the cost of the unit. We soon found out after we took ownership that this building is just completely full of problems. John DeAngelis left us with a roof that needed to be repaired. In addition to our high condo fees, we now have an additional assessment of $10,000 each for the roof, which has to be paid over the next 10 years. This is 18% of our budget. John has not paid his condo dues for approximately a year. Falling glass is a problem from the front windows on Market Street. The windows are in such poor condition that if some people open their windows, the glass is in danger of falling down on the pedestrians below. I'm sorry that no one is here from Prescott Street to speak. That's John's other project, which has had many significant problems. He hasn't paid his condo dues in over a year to the Prescott Street Condo Association. He has not paid the court judgment against him in the lawsuit that we had against John for $120,000. This has been outstanding for a long time. I'm not sure of the exact time, but certainly over a year or so. In other words, John has not met his obligations. He has not met them at Prescott Street. He's left behind 2 buildings with significant problems, and he is in significant arrears and has not met his financial obligations. This shows a significant lack of integrity on his part. There's no reason to grant an appeal for this building, which deserves a quality developer. If John DeAngelis is involved, I am certain that he is going to leave in his wake a significant problem which will also affect the city. If you note under item 6 in the project summary, it says one of the reasons for not granting this should be a potential fiscal impact, including impact on city services, tax base, and employment. John recently paid severe overdue taxes of $30,000 to the city for the various properties. Now, I don't know if this was because this proposal includes him and he needs to have his taxes paid out. But considering his record, his judgment of $120,000, which he owes us, his $10,000 to $12,000 overdue condo fees, which he owes us, his condo fees owed on Prescott Street, and no arrangements made to pay these either in a timely or future manner, I don't feel that the city should grant this this permission if it includes him, because the city's tax base is involved. If he recently paid his tax dues, and he's left our buildings with severe problems, what are the chances that he is going to leave this next building with severe problems? I propose that you decline this permission and substitute instead a ruling that John should pay off all of his obligations to the residents of both buildings.
Ma'am,
and
that's not for us.
It may not be your prime responsibility.
I understand
but I
that.
think you owe some respect to the residents where you have promoted downtown residential use. I think you owe the residents some consideration in this.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Yes, sir.
Stephen Schultz, Prescott Street in Lowell. Just a statement of facts. I was one of the first residents to move into the building, a recently renovated building. Within the first 2 years of moving in, we had to completely replace the roof, which was supposed to be replaced prior to the complete construction of the building, in excess of a $40,000 cost to the condominium. Additionally, we were forced to currently evaluate pointing, as we found that the building has not been pointed in a number of years, and we're getting leakage through the bricks. So while we in our building have all moved into what was a modern and recently renovated building, we found out that the structure was lacking and the quality of construction was inferior.
What address was that on Prescott Street?
58 Prescott Street.
58.
58.
Okay. Anything else, sir, you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
John O'Brien, 181 Market Street. And I would just, the same problems that he just addressed is what we have in our building. So I'd just like to go on record as being opposed to John DeAngelis.
Okay, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Mr. Speaker, 181 Market Street. I'm also like to go on record against John DeAngelis developing this structure. We have the exact same problem. We had to replace our roof, which with a cost of $200,000 to the residents. We're right now in the process of looking to replace our windows. It's very dangerous. I live on the Market Street side of the building, and I'm unable to open my windows because if I do, there may be falling glass on residents walking by and on the sidewalks. It's very dangerous. We got a judgment against Mr. DeAngelis to fix these problems 2 years ago. He have not made any attempt to fulfill that judgment at all. He's walked away from the 5 commercial units that he owned, that he currently owns in the building, and he's discontinued paying condo fees on those units. That's also a cost to the residents because we have to come up with the money to cover those costs. So I want to go on record in saying that he's very irresponsible, and I would not want to see him do that to any other potential residents in
Okay,
downtown.
and if you don't mind, I'd like to ask a question since there's quite a few people from 181.
Sure.
Do you know how many total units there are at 181?
23 units.
23 units. And are they all owner occupied? In other
They're
words,
85% owner occupied.
okay. Are there any rental units?
There are about 3 rental units.
Okay. And do you know who owns the 3 rental units?
I own one of them,
Okay,
and I know a couple of people that own.
okay. All right, sir. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, that's all.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am.
So I know there's some confusion here because we did get a notice that John DeAngelis, which is why we're all here. Again, I just want to, Elisa Faulkner, 181 Market Street, I just do want to go on record to say that I oppose John DeAngelis and, doing more development in the city. And I understand that, as everyone else says, this may be a moot point, but it is concerning to us. And I'm sure it's a coincidence, but his car was found outside of the building on Merrimack Street today. So just a coincidence, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Going to open it back up to Mr. Flood. Mr. Flood.
I just want to make it clear, Mr. Chairman, for the record, that John DeAngelis is not a principal in this development. I can give you a copy of the filing at the Secretary of State's office. Mr. Monahan is the developer. I'm going to ask Mr. Monahan to come up here and tell you the projects he's been involved in. And I think you can make a decision whether he's good for the city of Lowell. But this is not John DeAngelis. And this,
Mr. Flood, can I take a look at that, please? Yep. Yes, sir.
I'm going to have him tell you a little about himself,
Sure.
tell you what he does.
Name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Tom Monahan. My offices are at 141 Main Street in Nashua. I live in Nashua. Been around for a while. I've been in the development business for some 40 years. Premium Outlet Mall in Merrimack is mine, along with Simon Property Group. I'm presently building an 83-unit apartment building in Bedford, New Hampshire. I'm in for approvals for a 240-unit apartment project in Londonderry, New Hampshire. I've built, if you're familiar with Nashua, I've built Holden Farms, Glen Abbey, Crestwood, Crestview. I've probably built over 1,000 units in southern New Hampshire. I've also been the chairman and a member of the Nashua Housing Authority for some 29 years and been chairman for some 10 years. I've also been chairman of the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Nashua for the foundation. Just resigned, and then now I'm just a committee member, but I resigned as chairman. Built along with the Nashua Conway family and donated to the city of Nashua Conway Arena. The Monahan family and the Conway family done a lot of construction in southern New Hampshire. Been around. I own 100% of 24 Merrimack Street LLC. There's John DeAngelis is doing some of the cleanup work for me right now. I have hired Earth Realty to do the work. I have no decision as to who's going to go forward if we are so lucky to get the approvals. These are to be built as apartments, not condos. So when the phone rings, it'll be my phone ringing if and when there's a problem. Any questions from anybody, I'd be glad to answer. But you know, I'm looking forward to working in Lowell. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, that portion, you all said, Mr. Flood?
Yeah, I'm all set,
Okay.
yeah. it's just-
That portion of the public hearing is closed. I'm going to open it up to the board. Dennis, excuse me. I just want to mention, did Mr. Flood get a copy, what was submitted to us tonight? We received also from 7 opposition letters here, Mr. Flood. 5 of the 7 are from 181 Market Street. Did Mr. Flood receive these at all?
We were just able to package it up for this meeting. I'm happy to hand a package over to Mr. Flood at any point, but it was basically what the board just heard.
And then the other thing we had before us, Mr. Flood, was from the city of Lowell, if I'm reading this correctly. So, question I have, since this was on our desk tonight, is this pre or post has the building been acquired?
Yes.
Okay. Is this pre or post the acquisition?
Yeah, this is pre to the acquisition, but the issue remains. This is something that the building commissioner had.
Okay,
wished
and
to be passed
Mr.
along.
Floyd get a copy of this?
No, he will get a copy of it.
He will get a copy, okay. So this was put before us, Mr. Flood, this, from the city of Lowell for code violations of the state building code, and there seems to be a date up here, December 21st, 2011. I'm not going to go through it, but it was presented to us this evening. So if DPD is going to give you a copy of the opposition emails we received and the code violations, I'd like to at least have that in the record.
This property was acquired in March of 2012.
Correct.
And
Just
that's,
telling you
that's
what-
prior to?
Aaron, so correct me if I'm wrong, I see a date up here, 12/21/11. Is that the date that this
Yes,
was
that's correct.
processed?
And the long and the short of the violation is concern over the structure of the building and what's going on under the vaults. And the building commissioner was concerned about the structural integrity of the building. So that's not changed. The reason that this wouldn't be before is so that information could be transferred to the current owner.
Okay.
If there's a problem when during construction, he's going to fix it. Otherwise, it's going to sit there that way. So, I mean, that's the first I'd heard about that.
Yep. I just wanted to present it to you. We just received it this evening, so I didn't have any prior knowledge of this either. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm going to open it up to the board at this point, or let me close after speaking to Mr. Flood, and then I'll open it up to the board. Dennis.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. I love the idea of these multi-use buildings downtown, especially getting residential to happen and to liven as it's successful in a lot of other buildings, aside from the issues with maintenance, obviously. And I'm glad to hear that it's apartments, I think, because I think in this economy, apartments are a good move. But there does seem to be some paperwork issues here. We have a letter of April 24th regarding the parking, and it's to John DeAngelis. So it's dated April 24th, 2012, and it states that the parking is allocated in 2 different facilities and will be allocated and billed to John DeAngelis, President Earth Realty. So could you just address how the parking works and how John DeAngelis is...
John was acting as a broker for Mr. Monahan, and he didn't know Chuck Carney, so John contacted Chuck Carney regarding the parking. Plus, John still owns a portion of the other building on Prescott Street, which is not part of this application. So that's how that came about. But all the contracts will be with Mr. Monahan.
Okay, so the parking that's allocated to this building...
He made the contact with Chuck Carney.
At 26 Merrimack Street is your responsibility, Mr. Moynihan, I take it?
Right. Right.
All right. And you mentioned that there's a dumpster that's going to be placed in the alleyway, passageway.
Right, in the back, correct.
It's going to be sizable enough to serve 47 units?
It's going to be emptied every other day.
It's going to be emptied Okay, that makes more sense, I guess.
I thought I said that. I didn't say that?
You might have. I might have missed it. I'm sorry. Okay. And the units are 1 and 2 bedroom. How many 2-bedroom are you anticipating? Do you have a sense
I
of
don't
that?
think, you know, how many, one and how many twos?
I would say it's going to be mostly twos.
Mostly 2s. Okay. All right.
And it's all market rate, no subsidies.
With any expectation to convert to condos down the road, or is it strictly going to be apartments? What your standard, I guess, is more apartment kind of material? Sure.
You know, just as I'm building the 83 units in Bedford as apartments, I do build them, fit them up as for conversion down the road. So I don't plan on this is a sort of a retirement thing, and I want the income from the apartment. So my intention is not to convert, but who knows? You know, I committed to the town of Bedford for 5 years, and I certainly would make a commitment to the city of Lowell for some term agreeable.
Just on that note then, the quality level typically on pieces of property that are designed to be converted is not always the same as property that's designed to remain as apartments. So the window systems, you know that you're in the heart of downtown, and there's
historic district too. Yes,
the historic district, and there's noise, especially at night. So how are you resolving the? I mean, do you anticipate a design or a type of glass that's going to mitigate sound, or do you know what you're doing yet on that?
Well, if we were to do anything, if we were to do anything, we'd have to do it inside. We couldn't do it outside. The intent, if we do something, and it's based on the architects, what they come up with that frankly works. But I anticipated adding another soundproofing glass to the window. It's just a function of how do you do it, especially on the second floor, because they're ground to ceiling almost. But
sure.
we'll come up with a way.
Okay. Well, thank you. I have no further questions, and I just love the idea of this turning into some residential down there. I think it's a great location. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I guess I echo Dennis's thoughts. I think it's a great spot as far as conversion. There's not too many people looking to rent office space in the second, third, fourth, fifth levels of downtown Lowell anymore, unfortunately. So I think this conversion is a necessary situation. I guess there's some confusion with this Mr. DeAngelis that I don't know. And I don't know where that comes from, whether it was, or how it worked out, whether a realtor or some sort. So I guess I feel for the residents of Prescott Street and Market Street and other facilities. I don't know how that plays into anything we can do about it. We're here to grant zoning rights to be able to convert that into residential units. So I hope Mr. Monahan, being a 100% owner of this property, I guess would pick a reputable builder to do the work if he's going to subcontract that. So maybe it won't go on deaf ears, at least for other residents in downtown. And I hear you from a rental standpoint versus converting into condominiums or sales of that nature. I'm sure you'd want that as well. So I wish you luck with the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I do have a few questions and comments. As it refers to the rental property being apartments, are we going to be in a long-term or a short-term lease, or is that?
Probably year to year, probably.
Year to year?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Is it, you related to the Bedford project and you gave a 5-year commitment to stay. Was that a commitment to stay in the apartment venue and not move into the condominium venue? What was that? Was that?
I think that's what he said, yes. He wouldn't convert it to condos for a 5-year period.
Okay. And then one final quick comment. You mentioned a number of properties you, excuse me, in southern New Hampshire. Just out of curiosity, did you develop the property at Compass Point in Hudson, New Hampshire? You did? You did. Okay. No, that being said, as I thought I recognized the name, to satisfy some of the, and I do have a question through the chairman for a request to look at a document.
Yep. Mr. Green, you showed us a document when you first stood up there. Could you bring that before us, please? Yeah. What's that? Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. That was a request through Mr. Perrin. Just wanted to take a look at it.
Well, that's the notice I prepared, and John DeAngelis' name is not mentioned on that. I prepared this for
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a follow-up, I was just curious to see what Mr. Green was holding up, and I did see the city seal on it, so I was hopeful it was something that, and I was confident it was something we were not missing in our packet due to the diligence of the planning department. But that being said, now that comment I asked regarding Compass Point and to the residents of the city of Lowell, to which I am a resident and proud resident, I happened to purchase a home from Mr. Moynihan in the mid-'90s in Hudson, New Hampshire. Very diligent builder, very competent in his ability to follow through the contract. So I know there was some slight confusion, and I see that with this DeAngelis issue. So I do feel at ease moving forward in contemplation of my vote, knowing firsthand, living in that home with 2 young children. So I wanted to put that on the public record, in fairness to the residents that came out here tonight in opposition of what is, in my judgment, perhaps a confusion or an issue that is out there that is hopefully being resolved on record tonight. And I thought it was very important to make that known at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Gary. Corey?
Yes, to you, Mr. Chairman. Now, Mr. Flood, you've been in front of this board. I've been on 10 years myself, and you've been coming here long before me, and I have the utmost respect for you and the amount of petitions you brought in front of this board. But, you know, we do have an advertisement here with John DeAngelis' name. So basically, to the best of your knowledge, John is a broker in this situation, and...
I don't know where that came from, Mr. Belanger, but this is what I prepared, and I don't know where that came from.
Okay, because, you know, if that's for clarification for
Can I see
myself
what that
and
is?
some of these residents that are here.
See that?
Yep.
In the paper said the petitioner was flood law office, so,
Okay.
I mean, I never saw that, like I said.
All right,
John
so...
DeAngelis is not part of the development of this project.
Okay, so, although Mr. Monahan's gonna bid out the work to somebody's gonna end up doing the rehabbing, right? Okay, all right. Okay, but, you know, as a whole with the project, Mr. Monahan's qualifications appear to be there. That was one of the first things when I saw it on the agenda tonight is, you know, who is this builder, what has he done in the city, and, but it appears his qualifications are there with the Merrimack retail outlets and many, over 1,000 units in Nashua. I'd say he's qualified. So that's very, very comforting in that sense. But, you know, downtown, in the direction downtown is going, it's been more and more housing. Has Mr. Monahan considered at all, I think it's too late, but some business space in the second or third floor or whatnot?
There's been no action on
No consideration,
that.
I understand.
And I remember, I got my first haircut there years ago. I used to go to the dentist years ago. It used to be a very busy building years ago, but there's no market for it.
No, I don't discredit your client. He's a builder, and he's out to make money, and if that's the best way, that's his goal, I understand. But I think it's, you know, in the city officials are going in the wrong direction with too many housing units. There's no concentration on small business anymore, and that's no disrespect to the residents that are here. You know, some of them have paid a lot of money for market rate condos, like those who are here tonight, and shouldn't have to go through what they're going through. But, so that is a long-term concern of mine, that, you know, personally, I see a perfect storm brewing in the years to come. But the qualifications are there, and, you know, I don't want to see this, if this were denied, this building would be vacant another 2 years before another petition could come in front of this board. So I don't like the condition it's in currently. I am in favor of, you know, some business space in there would be nice, but it's not on the agenda this evening, unfortunately. So I do support it, due to the resume, so to speak, of the builder. But with the construction phases or whatnot, is he going to he's going to be resurfacing, refinishing the front facade, I imagine, right?
He's going to be painted.
Yeah.
Well, similar, his discussions have, similar to what was done at the Bon Marché. You know, it's going to be very nicely done.
Okay, well, I'm sure before the construction, if this does get approved, that we need a good pedestrian plan, if there's staging, because
Right.
there's already staging in the building next door that seems to be lingering forever. So, you know, we want this building fixed up naturally, but, you know, if it could be expedited and, you know, with a good pedestrian plan, if there's staging and whatnot for safety especially, and,
But we don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I thought I stated that. Good work with the transportation engineer on that.
okay, all right, well, I do support it, and I wish your client the best. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Van?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to echo some of the comments and concerns of the rest of the board. So there was some confusion of who's the developer of this project, but, you know, hearing Mr. Monahan speak, he is not John D'Angelo's, and it seems like, you know, he has a great reputation, a wealth of knowledge and experience, so hopefully he's the primary person on this project, and, you know, I'm really sorry to the residents about what happened, but, you know, I think that, you know, Mr. Monahan shows that he can do a lot of things and do the projects well and make them a good place to live and get space. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So, as usual, I have a couple of questions here. So the applicant is 24 Merrimack Street, LLC. The property is located at 26 Merrimack, right?
Right.
The, going back to the allocated parking spaces, which this was dated April 24th, where is 36 Prescott Street?
That's the old Lowell Sun building,
So-
where they used to publish the paper.
Okay, so this parking arrangement was tied in with two different properties, correct?
Yep.
So, so what's the issue now about the parking spaces? Now,
I think it was,
I think you explained, Mr. Flood, that the arrangement for April 24th was, has Mr. DeAngelis' name on it. So
Right.
is that staying in place? Are we accepting that as the agreement with the city? And,
I think that says that the spaces are available.
yeah,
I can't speak, I don't know who I would speak to now because Mr. Carney's no longer there, but I think, what does it provide, for 147 spaces or
well,
150
with it,
spaces?
it's 150 spaces between two different lots with two different properties.
The other building's much smaller, and all we need here is
Right.
47.
So I didn't understand where 36 Prescott came in.
Well, I think at one point in time, Tom was looking at that one also to buy,
Okay, so,
but he hasn't done that yet.
okay, so I'll defer to DPD. Are we okay with this agreement with the city on the parking spaces? Does it meet for 26 Merrimack Street, that the petition's in front of us?
Yeah, the letter was, as you noted, addressed and it labeled that there was, I guess, ample parking available in either garage for this development. This development requires 47
So
spaces.
this is going to hold water if this petition's approved, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
This is going to hold water if this petition's approved.
Correct.
So it's 150 spaces that's open to two different properties.
Correct.
Just want to ensure that I'm reading this correctly.
Yes.
Because obviously there is no parking for that building. Were there any comments from any city departments on this at all? I guess especially fire department, did they have anything at all?
No, we didn't receive any comments from the fire department
Okay.
at this point. There will be a review with fire safety through the building code compliance process as well, so.
Right.
There's a second round when you're talking just with the building itself. But because this is an existing building within an existing built environment, meaning there's no new roads, no new driveways, the fire department doesn't always provide comment at this stage.
Okay.
They will certainly review it at the building code stage.
All right. So, Mr. Flood, when you get a minute.
Mr. Chairman, I do have another concern that's come up regarding dumpster locations during construction, obviously, and when in the event this is fully occupied. Where is the dumpster locations going to be?
It would be in the same spot,
Oh, yeah, okay.
in the alleyway.
In the alley, okay.
Okay, so since he talked about dumpsters and stole my thunder. So regarding dumpsters, we talking one dumpster or two?
I'm talking one dumpster,
Okay.
emptied every other day.
So the dumpster's going to be located in that alleyway?
Right.
Okay. Obviously, we can't have, we wouldn't do anything screened in with that. Is this going to be a regular size dumpster that would be dropped and filled, and how's the dumpster going to work?
I'll let Mr. Monahan answer
Sure.
that question.
Because we had a project further up Merrimack Street, not too far, different setup, and we talked about individual dumpsters. That's why I'd like to ask the question.
Well, as it stands right now, I believe there are 3 dumpsters in the alleyway, and one is specifically for Dunkin' Donuts. And then, as I see going forward, that we would have, I'm looking into a chute system, which would be, each floor would have a chute to directly bring the waste go right into the dumpster.
So I believe to the chute, I believe there was a comment by the city on having no trash chutes.
Well, specifically for construction, we were hoping to have what we've done now, we've gone in and, for construction.
I'm talking about if it's approved, if where residence is set up.
If the city doesn't want the chute system will not be there. But I know for construction, for the ease, we've actually gone in and cleaned, the tenants are out from 2 through 6, and we've gone in and cleaned every floor, and we have the stuff stockpiled, waiting for the actual dumpsters to arrive, getting the approvals, but...
So I'm not sure if you answered my original question. I'm sorry if I...
We will do whatever the city wants us to do. If there's no chute system, there'll be no chute. Oh, and the dumpster would be as needed, certainly.
I mean, obviously, you're going to need a dumpster. If there's 3 there currently which serve the current needs, you're coming in with a new need, I would assume you need at least 1 dumpster.
No, because one of them was actually, we never had it removed from upstairs for the upstairs tenants. So we still have that 3rd dumpster, which is our one that doesn't get used right now.
Okay.
And my plan is to certainly as needed, but every other day, have the dumpsters emptied, and during not when the trucks are backing in at the middle of the night, I hope, and I'm sure that there'll be some time issues there, but as needed at least twice every other day.
Who's the contractor going to be to pick up the...
Right now, it's Waste Management.
Okay. So they must back in and somehow, or front load, or do something.
They are on, to be honest with you, I don't know. They are on, the dumpsters are on rollers. I don't know if they're rolled out to the street or, they back in. But
What's that? Okay. So there isn't any new dumpsters, a new dumpster proposed. You're going to use the existing.
That's the plan, yes.
So we don't need a condition around dumpsters. Does that sound correct to you guys before I cross it off here? Does that meet
If
your
the board is
requirements?
comfortable with that. And just to clarify in the comments from DPD relative to a chute system, the comment wasn't intended to suggest that the city or DPD is against a chute system in a building. It's just that there are certain health and safety building code requirements that are triggered if a chute system is utilized in a residential building. And that was more of a comment for the applicant and the board to be aware of this. Chute systems can work. They are challenging in some ways, but it triggers a different code compliance at the building code level.
Okay.
But if the board's comfortable with testimony relative to waste removal, you don't need a condition. However,
Well,
if you
I
would
mean-
like clarity and specificity in the decision, you can add a condition.
I didn't see anything submitted in the plans around dumpsters, and we always have questions around the dumpster situation. So if the petitioner is stating that they're going to use a current dumpster, I guess my expectation is that the city inspectors will ensure that they're using a dumpster that's on site that isn't efficient for a dumpster. Because I don't think we need all kinds of trash in that alleyway, so I expect that it'll be controlled by Mr. Moynihan. So we mentioned about you're going to need historic board approval. Does that mean no construction? This is just exterior for
Just
historic
exterior
board?
facade work, yeah.
Okay.
And the windows and,
Yeah, so that'll be, I'm running through a list of conditions here to see if this meets with you, Mr. Flood. Work with DPD for the, we were talking about those planters, if they can be workable.
Right.
I'd like to have you do that with DPD. The pedestrian access plan, I think the comment was if there's staging that's constructed, that there's some type of access that the pedestrians would have. I know I made the comment, I'm not sure, but I know a couple of times I went down Prescott Street, there were people walking in the street for that staging that's set up there. I don't know if that's 24%, 24 hours a day. That has nothing to do with your project, but.
no, but I think he said we'd work with the transportation engineer with
Yep.
with a proper plan for
Correct.
pedestrian. No problem with that.
Yep. The other, as far as, and I believe you made the statement, Mr. Flood, these units, of which there's 47, primarily 2 bedrooms, if I heard Mr. Moynihan correctly, $14, $18 market rate with no subsidies. Is that
No
correct?
subs- Correct.
Okay. And is there any signage currently in that passageway right now regarding parking? Do you know?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. The building is probably owned by 36 Prescott, right?
No. You mean, which building? It's
I was talking about the passageway which comes off of Prescott Street. That's where the dumpsters are, correct?
the old Sun Building is there. The borders up to it, but not 36 Prescott Street. That's on the other side.
It's on the other side. Okay. All right. Okay, any other conditions or comments from the board members before I have a motion? Hearing none.
Can you make another comment before you rule?
The public portion of the meeting is closer. Sorry. Anyone else? Do you have all the conditions I just spoke to? Okay. Okay, if you can give us just a minute, please.
This is roof. So that's the end of the This is all roof area.
Oh, is it overhead, yeah?
It's first level roof.
Okay.
Ground floor.
Okay, I thought it was.
No, it does say open area, but that's actually closed off there at Lowell.
Okay.
historic board, these two, and this one here. I want this. Oop. Okay, I'd like to have a motion.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that ZBA 2012-25 at 26 Merrimack Street with the following conditions. Site plan review by the Historic Board is approved. Work with DPD on ground planters. Work with DPD on a pedestrian access passageway. And all residential properties within this project will be at market rate housing with no subsidies.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve with conditions.
Okay, Ms. Flood, been approved with conditions.
Thank you
Ms.
very much.
Moynihan, I wish you the best of luck with the project.
You want to get me that other stuff that you have? Makes a difference. All right? Running from the Board of Health, you're going to get me that stuff? Building department, sidewalks, I hadn't seen that, yeah. Okay.
Mr. Let's see, Schultz, do you have a
Hi.
quick second to me?
Okay, next order of business is under other business, and this is the approval of the minutes for May 31st and June 11th, 2012. Any comments, questions about the minutes? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve.
Okay, any other items or comments, questions anybody from the board has? Hearing none, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a second?
Second it.
Good night.